friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Johanna and welcome to my cozy book space. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing my end of year book tag. I've seen a lot of my friends doing this and I thought it would be fun for me to do it as well. I did take a couple of my questions from different videos. I will link those videos down below in the description box. If you guys want to check it out, I will also leave the questions down below if you would like to do this tag as well. I know I'm kind of a little bit late to the game, but it is the end of year book tag. So like I felt like I should have done it by the end of the year and we're in December. So it's just how my brain works, but let's get into it. If I keep looking down is because I have my laptop right in front of me and I wrote all my answers out in my notes, so that is what I'm going to be referencing. First question that I have here is most disappointing read of the year, and I have two for this question. I mean, I had multiple for this question, but I've kind of separated some books for different questions just because some of the questions could be kind of similar and I didn't want to have to keep repeating the same book for every question. And I do own some of these books physically, but I did not have the energy to like go through my library and pick them out, so I will just be putting the pictures up on the screen. I feel like that's easier for me and I don't disrupt my shelves even though they aren't really done right now. But anyways, for this question I decided to pick Dangerous Innocence by Cora Riley. I chose this because I DNF'd it, I believe, in the 27% mark. Not sure, but I did end up DNFing it and that was really disappointing because I love Cora Riley. I love her Mafia series. I haven't continued her spin-off series, but I knew that this was a standalone and I really wanted to get back into her Mafia world, but this one just did not hit the way that I wanted it to and I just found myself not enjoying it and it was really disappointing. So that is my answer for that one. But I also did have another book for this question, which was The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. You guys already know I DNF'd this like more than halfway through. I just thought the writing was so bad that I didn't even want to finish the book, so I DNF'd it. So that was really disappointing, especially when that was me trying to dip my toe into some thrillers. So I probably won't be doing that again. Second question was Underdog Book of the Year. So for this question, I chose an author that I deeply love and appreciate and has opened me to her work and her world, and I just love that she introduced me to it and that I was able to be a part of her publishing her debut novel and everything that came with that. And I am just so happy to have been one of the first few people to read her amazing books and to continue to read her amazing series, and I just love everything about it. And I am talking about the author Rory L. Scott and her books For the Love of the Gods as well as The Gods Only Know. These are the first two books in her series. The third one comes out January 4th and I do have an arc for it and I can't wait to get to it. I literally have been putting it off because I feel like I'm going to love it. Like I could already feel myself like going insane. But I think that these books are so underrated and they're just so good. If you like romance with a little bit of fantasy and everything that those romantasy tropes and vibes that you just can't live without, that is in her books. The romance is just done so beautifully and the tension and the chemistry and the spice is just all there. I think that if you've been wanting to dip your toe in fantasy or romance fantasy, then this is a good place to start because it's not overly complicated. It's easy to understand and you just can't help but fall in love with them. Definitely check out these books because they are amazing. So for the third question, I have a book that was overhyped. For this one, I was kind of not sure what to pick. While I was going through my Goodreads, I decided to pick King of Pride by Anna Huang. So I did choose King of Pride because it was hyped up because one, it is Anna Huang. All of Anna Huang's books are super overhyped. You see them everywhere before being published, after being published, like they are everywhere. And King of Pride was just really disappointing for me, especially for this Kings of Sin series that she is coming out with. After the Twisted series and how much that series was super hyped and how I really didn't see the hype around the Twisted series, and then I ended up reading the first book of Kings of Sin series and I ended up loving it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I was just really excited for King of Pride and it did not meet my expectations. It kind of just threw me back to like Twisted Love vibes, and so I guess I ended up choosing King of Pride for this overhyped book question. Then for question number 4 is fave book couple of the year or couples of the year. You can do just one couple or multiple couples. Of course, I had to choose multiple couples. I just can't choose one. I did choose quite a few, but I won't go into each one. I will tell you what book they are from though, that you can just go check out my Goodreads and all my 5-star reads. These are like basically most of those, you know? So first up, we have Bo and Lola from the Explicitly Yours series. Jules and Ruben, this is from Resting Witch Face by Juliet Cross. Brianna and Jacob, this is from Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. August and Natalie, this is from Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Theo and Winter from Reckless by Elsie Silver. Sloan and Rowan from Butcher and Blackbird. Grace and Jackson from Watch Her Mouth by Candy Steiner. Blake and Ramses from Minx. So those were all of the couples that I decided to choose for this question. They are definitely my favorite couples of the year. Then for number 5, it's fave main characters of the year. This one was kind of like the same question as the previous one, but I decided to choose characters that were like maybe in fantasy or maybe like in a throuple. So for this one, I decided to choose Jude and Cardin individually, but also they are a couple, but I wanted to do something different because this is a fantasy and this is like romance fantasy, but it's more on the fantasy side than romance. So they are more individual characters than they are together. So Jude and Cardin, I mean, from the Cruel Prince trilogy, I have yet to stop thinking about them. I love them so much. I continue to see artwork for these two characters all over my social media, and every time I see them, I just fall back in love with them, and then I start to miss them, and then I think I'm gonna reread it, and it's such a good trilogy, and I loved it so much. So definitely top fave characters for me. And then the third one that I had on here was Priest from Sea of Ruin. He is one of the characters in Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin, and I absolutely loved him. I loved him so much that I thought that he was not in the book as much as I would have loved, but he still lives in my head rent free. I love that man. For question 6 is book that surprised you. Obviously, I have more than one book, so let's get into it. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez definitely surprised me just because I was going into Abby Jimenez's books with low expectations, and when I listened to this audiobook, my expectations were met and it went above and beyond, and I loved it. I felt that romance in my chest. And then I have The Darkest Sunrise duet by Ali Martinez. This one as well was surprising to me because I didn't think that I was going to love it as much as I did, and I listened to the audiobooks in one day because I was so invested and I was just so into the book. Then I have Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This one I actually was surprised as well because I read the first book, Hooked, and I gave that one I think like 3 or 3.5 stars. Now that I think about it, I feel like that book was 3 or 3.5 stars. So I wasn't properly introduced to the series, but when I jumped into Scarred, I loved that book so much with my entire heart. It was a slow burn done so well. I was giggling, kicking my feet. I was just screaming for this book when I first read it, and I absolutely loved it. And this is the book that made me fall in love with Emily McIntyre. So that was definitely a surprise for me. I have The Guy for Me by Marzi Opal. This one was actually a new author for me, so she could have possibly been for a different question. But anyways, this one was really surprising to me because I believe like Marzi Opal only does like mafia romance, but I could totally be wrong. And I saw this novella in somebody's story, I can't remember at this point, but I read a quote, I instantly downloaded it and I read it, and I was so surprised about how much I loved it because this is like one of the only novellas that I have ever given 5 stars to, so I was shook to say the least. Then lastly, I have Minx by Sophie Lark. This one was surprising just because this is such a different book by Sophie Lark, and I kind of was just not expecting to love it as much as I did, but I ate this book up. This book lives rent-free in my head. For a new fave author you discovered in 2023, I have a couple. So I didn't realize, but Pam Godwin was an author that I first read this year. She has become an auto-buy author for me. I will read her entire backlist. I will get there one day. Like, she can do no wrong in my eyes. Second one is Marlo Roy. This is actually an author that I got introduced to by my friend on Instagram and now on YouTube, Kindle After Dark. She put me onto this author, and I will forever be grateful for her because the more I read by Marlo Roy, the more I fall in love with it. And this is an Omegaverse author. Her romance, her spice, her writing, her banter, the tension, the just everything about it. I love her. I will read everything that she comes out with. I'm currently caught up on all her backlist. She just only has like I think 4 books out right now, and I have read every single one. So I love her. And then lastly, Emily Henry. I finally read my first Emily Henry book this year. I read People We Meet on Vacation, and I loved it so much. I listened to the audiobook and I give it 5 stars. I truly loved Alex and Poppy. Then Happiest Read of the Year. For this one, I just tried to pick books where I remember being so invested that I was like screaming, giggling, smiling, just eating these books up. Like I literally could not take it. I thought my heart was going to explode out of my chest. For those, I definitely have the Attempt the Gods series by Rory L. Scott. For the Love of the Gods is the first book, and I just remember first reading that and literally just falling in love with the romance and the world. And a second one for this one, I picked Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Of course, Tessa Bailey is gonna make it onto this tag because I just love her so much and I love her book so much. And Unfortunately Yours, when I was reading it, I literally couldn't stop. I literally had to force myself to stop reading this book because I was binging it and I was like, oh my god, I don't want this to end. And I just remember annotating this book and having the best time and just being so happy for this couple, and just again the romance, the spice, the banter, the characters. It was just so good, and just thinking about it, it makes me so happy. And then last but not least, I have the Explicitly Yours series by Jessica Hawkins. This series, I literally have not stopped thinking about. It is currently my favorite billionaire romance. Just that little plot twist that we get, and when we find out why the hero had done the things that he did, and the way that he integrated himself into the heroine's life, just the angst of that first book and that like love triangle, their conversation, their banter, the beautiful writing, the way that Jessica Hawkins can just make you feel that shit. Oh my god. I'm still thinking about it. I love that series so much. I love it so much that sometimes I think about how it ended and it makes me want to cry, because I feel like that could have been wrapped up so much better, but I love it so much that it's 5 stars all around. Like I love those characters so much, and I just remember reading it and just being so happy that I was loving this book, and how happy I was that I was enjoying a book series about the same couple and like so invested in their relationship. It was just phenomenal. I loved it so much. Moving on, question number 9, most frustrating book you read in 2023. For this one, I have 3 books. I have In Peace Lies Havoc by Emma Jones. This one was so frustrating because not at any point of this book did I know what was going on. I was so confused and I was just so frustrated with the book, but I was also disappointed in the book because I really wanted to love Emma Jones, because I know there's a lot of readers out there that do love her, but y'all, I was confused. I didn't know what was happening, so I ended up DNFing it. So that was really frustrating. And then for the second frustrating book in 2023, I have Balance by Lucia Franco. This one was frustrating as well because I was enjoying it so much and I was just so frustrated by the end of it. I think that it was too long. I hated the way that our characters were acting, even though there was like this giant age gap. I just felt like they were really immature. And I know there's multiple books in the series, and I might still give the series a second try, maybe, because I know that this is probably a lot more character driven and these characters grow throughout the series. At least I hope so. And I know this is such a very beloved series and I really want to be one of those people, but it was very frustrating to get through. And then last but not least, I have Raw by Belle Aurora. This one was frustrating as well as just very disappointing. This one I DNF'd as well. Not that I was just frustrated with the fact that I wasn't liking it. I was essentially hating this book. I just didn't understand why people loved this book so much to be included in a book box. But yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say about that one. Question number 10, best adaptation of the year. Sad to say that I haven't read any books that have been adapted. I have this thing where I know books that have been adapted into either movies or TV shows this year, and some very well known, but I refuse to watch them because I have yet to read the books. So I don't really have an answer to this question. I just really put this pressure on myself where if I know that a book is becoming a movie or TV show, I don't want to watch it until I read the book because the book is always better. So yeah, I didn't watch any of them. Question number 11, longest book you read this year. And according to Goodreads, the longest book that I read this year was A Mile High by Liz Tom Ford at 603 pages. I did not realize how long this book was, but there it is. For question number 12, shortest book you read this year. As Goodreads says, the shortest book that I read, okay, so there were other ones on my Goodreads list. They were obviously novellas because those are the shortest amount of pages, novellas. And some of them were literally just said unknown. So I wasn't gonna go into each novella and count how many pages. So the one that was known and was the shortest was Slammed by the Minotaur by Sam King at 45 pages. That was a fun read, not gonna lie. Question number 13, fave cover or covers of the year. For this one, I chose 3. I chose the Stay a Spell series by Juliet Cross. Just the entire book series and all of those covers are beautiful and stunning to me. I think that just the way, for example, with Wolf Gone Wild, we have these witchy vibes. We have like these doodles, but all these doodles and things on the cover represent something in the book, and those are my favorite covers, and it's just so whimsical and just so pretty, and I love those covers with my entire heart. And then I have Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This one, I just think the cover is stunning, like with the woman in the ocean and the boat. Girl, when you have that book in your hands and you're looking at it, you're just like, wow, perfect cover for this book, like just stunning. And then last but not least, I have Saint by Sierra Simone. This one, I just love that man on the cover. Ooh, honestly, all of the men on the pre-series, especially Sinner, don't even get me started on Sinner, but I didn't read Sinner this year. I read Saint this year. So we're talking about Saint. That man on that cover, the things that I would let him do to me. The things that I would let him do to me. The necklace, the purple, the black and white, just so good, so good. Question number 14, a book you haven't stopped thinking about. For this one, I have 3 of these, and I will say, this is facts, that this is like, there is just days where I just sit there and I think about these books and I'm just like, wow, they really are just living rent free in my head. Like, I don't know what it was about them. They must have had crack. I'm addicted. But first one being the Explicitly Yours series by Jessica Hawkins. I still think about that book. I still think about Beau Olivier. What can I say? I love that man. Then I have Minx by Sophie Lark. This one, I think the spice lives rent free in my head, as well as our main character Blake. That woman, oh my god, that woman, and in that cat suit with her confidence, period. I love her, and just her with Ramses and the way that Ramses is on his knees for her, so good. Mostly the smutty scenes live rent free. Then lastly, I have Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. This one lives rent free in my head just for the way that that man loves Natalie. Just that's how I want to be loved. Read this book and that's how I want to be loved. That's how I want to be fought for. This is just chef's kiss of a book. I love the book so much. It was so good. Okay, number 15, cringiest book you read this year. Now for this one, I don't have a specific answer, but I will say I read a lot of novellas, and I will say like maybe 60-70% of those most likely made me cringe at some point, I will say. But I love them, and I will never stop reading novellas. So I don't have a specific rec for this one, or like a specific book for this one, but mostly the novellas that I read. Question number 16, unpopular book you loved. I will say that I myself personally believe that this book is unpopular, but I don't know if unpopular would be the word. I just think that it's not talked about enough. I just think that it's super underhyped. I think that if more people read it, they would enjoy it. And this is the White Monarch trilogy by Jessica Hawkins. Definitely not as popular as they should be. And maybe they were popular at some point. I just missed that train, but I need that train train to come pick it up again, because the White Monarch series, I have reread that twice. I reread that this year, and when I picked it up and I reread it again, I fell in love with it again. 5 stars all around, every single book, amazing. I loved it so much, and I definitely think that right now it's unpopular, but you need to read it, add it to your TBR. Question 17, what was the highest and lowest rated books you read this year on Goodreads, and do I agree? So according to Goodreads, the highest rated at 5 stars of books that I have read is Not So Silent Night by Marlo Roy. This on my Goodreads, I read this I think like 2 days ago. It recently came out. It is part of Marlo Roy's Omegaverse series, and it is a standalone, interconnected, you would totally read this as a standalone. It doesn't really spoil anything, but it is an interconnected novella. And yeah, I bought the ebook. I think it's still 99 cents, hopefully. I immediately read it. I binged it. I stayed up until I finished it. It is a novella, but it's, you know, up there. And I gave 5 stars. So I agree with Goodreads, because Goodreads says that the average rating for it is 5 stars currently, probably because it's a new release, but well deserved. 5 stars. I loved it so much. It was so good. Just thinking about it, I love that. I love that interconnected novella. I really did. And then according to my Goodreads, the lowest rated at 3.24 stars was a novella called Wed to the Minotaur by Eden Ember. And for this one, I believe I gave it 2.5 stars. And I honestly can't remember whether I DNF'd it or not, but I agree, because it was my favorite. Eden Ember is a novella author that I just doesn't work for me. I have read, I think, multiple of her books this year. At least I tried, until I was like, yeah, you know what, she's just not for me. And then for question 18, fave quotes of the year. This one, why is this a question? Because how are we gonna remember all of our favorite quotes? You know how much I annotate, so I don't have an answer for this question because there are too many. Moving on, question number 19, book with the most unique concept. For this one, I was just kind of like, what should I choose for this? So I was going through my Goodreads and I decided to pick a Claire Kent book called Last Light. I decided to pick this book for this question because this is a book that I gave 5 stars to. It is part of the Kindled series by Claire Kent. Those are a series of novellas. The newest one comes out sometime in December, but this one was basically like the prequel standalone book before those novellas, and I loved that it was a full-length novel. I just hadn't gotten it to it yet, and I decided to pick this book because this is a post-apocalyptic romance. And I, this year, have fallen in love with post-apocalyptic romances, and that's all thanks to Claire Kent. I just think that the concept is just so entertaining and just so interesting, and just also heartbreaking, and having to see these characters fall in love at the end of the world is just so good. Like, it's heartbreaking, but it's also like I can't stop reading it because I'm addicted. For question 20, book you read that you would reread. All of my 5-star books, literally all of them. I would reread all my 5-star reads, which I am kind of planning to next year. Not a set date, just kind of for comfort throughout the year. I'm just gonna reread my 5-star reads. So yeah, check out my Goodreads. I always have it linked down below. So if you guys want to see all my 5-star reads, those are the books that I would reread. Question number 21. Any books that you started this year that you need to finish? I have 2 books for this one. I have Complicated Hearts Duet Part 2 by Ashley Jade. I read Part 1. I can't even remember when I read part 1. I feel like it was in the summer. I'm not gonna lie. And then, yeah, it must have been in the summer. It was like before Book Bonanza, because I was trying to read Ashley Jade for Book Bonanza. I read part 1 and I loved it. I believe I gave it 4 stars, but I just didn't have enough time to immediately jump into part 2. And then I just kind of forgot and kept putting it off and kept putting it off. And then one day recently, I think maybe in October or maybe August, I picked up the audiobook for part 2, and I read like not even 5%, and I listened to not even like 5% of this book, and I just never picked it back up again. And that's not to say that I'm not invested in these characters. I just need to like sit down and listen to this book. Like, I need to do it, you know, and I've just been putting it off because I have other things to read, etc., etc. My brain, it fights me sometimes, you know? And so the second book for this question that I have started and have yet to finish is Rain by A.L. Woods. This one, I'm not gonna lie, it just intimidates me, because when I first decided to pick this book up was because I had signed up for the arc for the second book in this duet. I hadn't realize that I had to read the first book before I could read the second book, because if I read the second book, then I would know who was chosen in the first book. And in the first book, it's a love triangle, and it is a toxic as romance, okay? I got quite a bit into the book, and it was just so toxic that I just needed to take breaks. And then at some point, I never got back from my break, and I never picked it back up again. Do I want to finish these books by the end of the year? Yes, I would love to. Will I? Stay tuned. For question number 22, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year with? And I have two, and these are just purely on vibes, how I'm feeling at the moment. So I'm gonna say this first one real quick because I'm pretty sure I said the same book last year for this tag and I didn't read it, and now we're back again at the end of the year and I'm saying this book once more. And I've talked about this book countless of times and I have yet to read it. So real quick, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna get to it. That's it. Anyways, and then for my second one, I have Gothicana by Runex. This one specifically because it's on my TBR, but mostly I'm thinking like Dark Academia. Why do I feel like Dark Academia is just such a good transition in the winter? I mean, if it fits. I just feel like Dark Academia is just such a vibe and such an aesthetic that I feel like it would be such a good transition to go from fall, winter, so on and so forth. Question number 23. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? And I do have quite a few releases on my December calendar, but the main one that I'm really anticipating and still waiting for is Sanctuary by Claire Kent. Honestly, I need to get onto Claire Kent's backlist, but this is gonna be one of her new releases in that Kindled series, that post-apocalyptic romance series, and I'm just so ready for it. I'm so excited. I hope that book does not get pushed to next year. The minute it comes out, I will be reading it. Question number 24. What are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? For this one, I'm just going to refer you guys to all the series I'm currently in the middle of video. I will link it up in the cards as well as down below in the description box, because all of those books, all of those series, those have been my main priority for the months of November and December. I'm trying to get most of those series at least like current, or like whether I want to finish the series, etc., continue the series, possibly finish the series in December before I start the new year, because I low-key don't want to start the new year with too many series started, just because I know in the new year I'm going to be reading so many books, and so many of those books are going to be in their own series. But you know, at this rate, with the way that I read, it is inevitable that I will have so many series that I will be in the middle of, but that's fine. I'm just trying to narrow it down before the end of the year. Yeah, so check out that video because I go into all of the series that I'm currently in the middle of, and those are all books that I want to read before the end of the year. For question number 25, is there a book you think could shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I don't know about favorite book of the year because, like I said, my TBR for December has been really like finishing series. There is a new release coming out, I think I'm not sure when it comes out, but it's Own Me by K.A. Tucker. When I first read the Wolf Hotel series, this was a very frustrating series for me, but I loved our 2 main characters so much and I just wanted their end game. And I think the last book in the Wolf Hotel series gave me some closure, but I will say I think my main reason why I didn't like Ride or Die for the Wolf Hotel series was because I wanted our main characters, our hero and our heroine, to be the only people building towards this relationship. That was my main issue for that series, but I feel like I could possibly give a 5-star to Own Me by K.A. Tucker because it's going to be about our main characters, and like, I mean, at least I hope so. This is what I'm assuming, that it's gonna be just about them and their life, and I think I'm going to eat that up because I love seeing our couples happy. So I think that could definitely become a favorite of the year. Last question for this end of the year book tag is, have you already started making plans for next year? And for this one, yes, I have. I am such a planner. I am a planner girly, sometimes to my detriment, but I love it so much. And of course, I have been doing 2024 planning since November, maybe a little bit of October. I've just been brain dumping and like just thoughts and things I want to do, just writing them all down, just cannot even make sense, but it's written down and I organize all my thoughts and I'm like, okay, this is something that I want to do in 2024. I have reading goals, how many books I want to read next year, all of those things. And I think I'm going to talk more about my 2024 bookish goals as well, maybe some personal goals in a different video, specifically maybe a New Year book tag video. I believe I did a New Year book tag last year, and I have recently found some newer questions, and I'll take some of the old questions for that tag and I will be answering those and just go a little bit more into depth of my 2024 plans. But to answer this question, yes, I have started. I couldn't help but start because I love to plan, like I said, and I just have so many thoughts and so many ideas and goals with content and content planning and all of those things, and I'm super excited to share that with you guys. But yeah, that was the last question for this book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you haven't done this video, definitely do it and tag me. I would love to watch. If you don't want to film a video but you want to answer some of these questions, definitely answer them in the comments down below. I would love to know. And if you don't want to answer any of that, then go ahead and leave me the champagne emoji or like the champagne glasses emoji for the end of the year or like New Year, just celebration. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.